Hey, welcome to Drift Garage Season 2 on Network A. You guys have been asking a lot of questions, and Ryan and I are here to answer a few of them. I'm reporting to you from the MA Motorsports engine room, where it's the only quiet place in this shop as we are thrashing to get all these cars ready for Formula Drift. I'll take the first question from Joshua Osborn. Joshua says, if you would do it all over again, would you swap in a more tame VK56 with maybe a small supercharger, or keep the twin turbo 3.7? You know, Josh, in my opinion, I think that the turbo setup is really awesome, really fun, and the Fast Intentions kit gives you everything that you need to bolt this thing on without needing any extra parts. It makes an incredible amount of horsepower. It actually makes almost more power than what the VKs are able to make in its stock block form. But a V8 swap is fun, and supercharger will give you that extra kick, but the extra work to get that V8 to fit into a 370Z is a lot more difficult than getting an off-the-shelf kit like Fast Intentions. Well, while I'm out here in the Northeast, Ryan's out in the Northwest getting his car ready for Formula Drift at Nameless Performance.
What's up everybody, Ryan Tuerck here for this week's response video. I'm out here at Nameless Performance getting the FRS all together for Formula D. Bunch of sleepless nights, but we are at the finish line. Motor got tuned today, which you can catch some footage of here in a second. I'm going to give you a walk around of what we're doing this year. We have a new 2JZ VVTi motor, custom Nameless Performance manifold going on here with a bunch of extra goodies going. Mishimoto power steering cooler, Mishimoto oil cooler. Vinyl's coming this week. A lot of cool things that are going to be dropping real soon, so keep an eye out for that. My first question comes from Troy Kingsley. How do you like your FRS, Ryan? Well, simply put, my FRS is awesome and I absolutely love it. It's a good second hand to my Formula D car. Allows me to do extra testing and kind of just become more acquainted and more comfortable in the FRS chassis altogether. So things are at.
Our next question comes from Brian Bordikoff. Question for Chris and Ryan. I'm trying to figure out my tire situation for the first Club Loose event, and I'm not really sure what to do when it comes to new or used tires. What do you guys recommend I should run, and also how many tires should I try to bring for opening moves? Thanks for the inspiration. You're welcome, Brian. When it comes to going to the track, it's always good to have more than what you need when it comes to spare parts, fuel, and especially tires. And if you're bringing used tires, you always want to count almost double than if you're bringing new tires. They're a little more brittle, they might fall apart, and they're already worn down to the wear bars, so you're going to get a lot less runs out of them. If you're first starting off, I would definitely suggest going with used tires. They're cheaper, they're easier, and also they're just a little looser than a nice set of grippy new tires, which is going to make your car a little easier to drive at the track. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a nice new pair of sticky tires up front, and those should last you all season long.
Next question comes from YouTube user Ruling Metal 2. Hey guys, what kind of maintenance do you do on your car to prevent the engine from blowing and running more efficiently? Simply just change your oil every single event. If you're having a pretty intense track day where you're really beating the crap out of your car, you want to definitely change your fluids. We're using Valvoline oil in all of our race cars, and you just change them every event. Just put the fresh stuff in, new oil filter. You know, just check everything over and make sure it is 110% ready to go. Also make sure that all of your sensors, your fuel injectors, your fuel filter, just all of the preventative maintenance stuff needs to be done so that you can have a reliable car that doesn't blow up on the track.
Our next question comes from Dea Alamori. Is it possible to run the Fast Intentions kit on stock pistons? And also, can it be installed on an automatic transmission? How much is the budget for this season? Well, that seems to be a pretty popular question. We'll get to that. As far as the Fast Intentions twin turbo kit on stock pistons, yes, can be done. Actually has been done on multiple platforms and multiple setups, all on stock pistons and even some on built motors. But the record of 660 wheel horsepower that's been set by those guys was on a factory stock block, and they're looking to push for 700 wheel horsepower. And as far as an automatic transmission, yes, those guys have installed this twin turbo kit on an automatic 370Z. They have beefed up the internals a little bit with some extra clutch packs, and they also have their own billet flex plate that helps hold all that power through that drivetrain. they've actually taken that car to the drag strip and have set the world record for fastest 370Z with an automatic transmission. Just pretty quick shifts, 7 speeds, and you're flying down the drag strip. As for the overall budget, it is hard to say whether you're including labor or doing it yourself and which parts you're going with, but this exact build, it's anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 depending on how much the car is, how much you're paying for labor, how much you're putting into some of the suspension. It's really variable, and like we said, this is kind of like a dream car, something you're really proud of, something you can take to the track, drive around on the streets, and still have a great time.
YouTube user Kyle Allen asks, what happens to all the old parts off of your Missile car and Formula D cars after you have thrashed them? Most of the time they are either just thrashed so bad that they get thrown in trash or given away to a fans, or they can also be, if they're not so bad, repurposed to other cars, which I usually do. I'll usually repurpose them or use them as spares. Otherwise, they just sit around and collect dust.
Our last question comes from Aluzdre. He asked, how long did it actually take to get the engine out? Well, with Brian and I working on it, we actually did get it out in only a couple hours. We did have access to a lift. It is easiest to pull the engine out from underneath with the subframe and everything attached to it. But yeah, it's actually a pretty simple job. Draining the fluids, pop the ECU connector, just feed the wiring harness through the firewall, and then you're just a couple nuts and bolts away, and that thing just falls right out the bottom.
Alright guys, that's going to do it for this week's response video. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Drift Garage 2 and leaving your questions and comments below. Make sure you continue to share the video as much as you possibly can, and stay tuned as Chris and I both polish our cars up. I'll be polishing my turd while Chris is busy keeping his hands clean, putting a twin turbo setup on his street car.